Hello, everybody.
Hello everyone, how are we?
We are good. We are good. Hopefully, everybody can hear us and see us, and everything's working. We did have a very couple of last-minute little oh my gods going on there, but we're here now. We're alive. We're still in the room.
Yes, that little oh my god was you not having the necessary equipment in the room.
Blah 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 blah. Maybe.
Never mind. There's five people apparently watching.
Five
Hello,
people.
everybody.
Well, hello to everyone watching this
I
evening.
think it says five, yeah. Hello.
And if you are tuning in to our podcast later on, then welcome aboard for that too. And if you are enjoying it, do find us in all the relevant places as per the intro.
Absolutely, yes, please do. And yes, and welcome to everybody's podcast. I think this will be our third podcast episode, which is very exciting for us. And hopefully you'll enjoy them in that format. We did one of our patrons did disturbingly tell us that he can take us into the shower now. Which I'm not sure that's a good development for anybody, really.
We don't charge extra for that, though, so, you know. Make the most of it is what all I say.
A Patreon level. Shower Pete, yes. No, nobody wants that.
War Machine is around. He says hola, and Dead Hands is also online, so welcome both of you gentlemen. Welcome aboard.
Hello. War Machine, fantastic. He religiously retweets our tweets, but I think he's our only follower on Twitter. Actually, no, there's two people who religiously retweet our tweets, and it's very nice.
Three people.
Have people.
God bless them all.
Do that. Our Twitter presence is very low. It's very low. I can't only cope with social media presence in so many places. One place really, Facebook.
Yeah, it's pretty much it. It's probably the worst place. You know, it's all happening on Twitter and all the rest of those things. They're the places we should be going. But yeah, too old for this nonsense.
War Machine says, of course, it's great content. Well,
we are awesome content.
Much.
We are.
Checks in the post.
Yep. Bing. We're not making a lot of money out of this. We keep paying everybody more than we're getting. So today, this evening, or this afternoon, this morning, whichever time you're listening to this podcast or this live show is all about hobby burnout.
Hobby burnout or hobby fatigue.
Hobby fatigue, yeah.
Hobby fatigue. There's a subtle difference between fatigue and burnout, I think, but maybe we'll discuss that when we get to it.
Yes.
But first up, we thought we'd run through our usual news and views of what's been going on in the gaming world, what's been going on in Pete and my world.
Yep.
GCSEs have started in our house. So for those of you who don't live in the UK, that's the 16-year-old exams.
You'll pass them this time, Robin.
See what you know. I hope so. This is my, how old am I now? This will be my 39th year or something. I can't even do the maths.
That's why you fail
it's not quite 39, is it? That's what it is. But yes, but no, hopefully I'll get there. Hopefully I'll get there. Master English. Yes, and my son is doing those, and he's really happy about it, as you can probably imagine. So that's what's going on in our house. Yep, but we have been playing some games. We didn't actually meet last week, Pete, because you had another social engagement.
I did a work-related one.
Another social engagement, which is very, very, very rude.
Yeah, I know.
Do your work not know that you can't do anything on Thursdays?
Well, it was a big company event. They were getting everyone together, so I couldn't really not go. It was kind of like you don't have to come in 99% of the time, so you kind of lose any excuse to not come in that other 1% of the time.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Maybe. I actually went out for dinner with my wife, which was very nice because my youngest son was away on his field trip to the Isle of Wight. School trip to the Isle of Wight. So it was very quiet in our house last week. So the older two are old enough to look after themselves. To be honest, the older two are old enough to look after the little one, but they don't because they're fighting.
Because they're related, and they might actually know each other.
Yeah, it's almost to the point where we can't really get a babysitter because any babysitter we might find might actually be younger than my oldest. but it's not fair to leave him to referee the other two, or I don't feel that it is.
No, I think.
But anyway, enough of that. Enough of that.
So what have we been playing?
We did play a couple of games the week before.
Yes, we did play a few games the week before, which people may or may not be aware of. One of them, Ascension Tactics, which is a nice hex-based board gamey type job, which I think we both quite enjoy.
Yeah, Morph put us onto that one. He said, "Has anybody played this?" And I thought, "Oh, that looks interesting." And I contacted the a company who makes it, and they sent me a copy. I must review it actually, otherwise I've just stolen it.
Here's your review. It was
So I
good
must go
fun.
and review that. Obviously, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is good. It's similar to Underworld, but there's no pre-deck building, so you deck build on the fly. And there's no miniatures either, but there is cardboard standees. I think there is a miniatures version, but it was Kickstarter only, so I don't know if you can buy it. Well, Kickstarter only implies that you can't. Yeah, it's nice. So it's in the Ascension world. There's loads of Ascension deck building games, various iterations of it, and this is almost like goes back to the beginning, but has this whole new concept. But it has a deck building element and then a board element, and I really quite enjoy it, and I'd love to have the time to play more.
And it's not deck building like Underworld and
week.
stuff like that. It's more of a sort of what's the one I'm trying to think of? It's like a communal deck that you draw from during the game. So it's not something that requires any sort of prep in advance of the game, which is good, which is a big plus for me.
Not really. I mean, I guess if you know the cards in advance, I mean, obviously you don't know the order they come in, but if you kind of know what cards work together, but I guess that's experience.
Yeah, and even then, there's nothing stopping there's nothing stopping your opponent grabbing said cards before you manage to get around to them. So there's only so much.
No, there probably are deck build.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
That was it.
There probably are deck building strategies within it. Once we get going, but we've already played sort of 2 or 3 games, maybe 4 games. But I really enjoy it, and then there's a board element. So what you have some heroes that you use on the board, and they can be powered up by various abilities that you draw cards from. So it's quite clever. It's quite light. It takes about an hour to play through, and there's various different scenarios, and there's campaign mode and a cooperative mode. So there's lots of gameplay in it, I think, and a solo mode. So there's lots of options for play. The other thing we played, Pete, and we have talked about adding this to content to the channel, and that's the Lord of the Rings living card game.
Yep.
Which I love, and I think you enjoyed yourself.
I did enjoy it. Yeah. I got to play the dwarves, which is always a good thing for me. It's not the kind of game I would probably pick to play on my own. But it was still good fun to play when we played it. We didn't record that, unfortunately, because I'd never played it before. So we were like, we probably need to at least play a bit of a game for me to get the hang of it first. And to start with, when you were explaining it, I was just like, holy crap, what is this nonsense? But after about...
There's a lot...
Yeah, after a couple of turns, it just started to make sense. And after that, it was like, you started to think, oh, I actually think I know what I'm doing here. I think I can work some of this out and get the hang of how the rules work. And it's some random things like it's just you put some cards here, and then you put a couple of cards over here, and then you have to draw some cards, you put them here, and it's like, to start with, it's like, none of this makes sense. Why are we putting this card over there when we have the other cards over here and stuff? It's like, just shut up, it works, and it does.
It is quite prescriptive, isn't it?
Yeah.
There is a definite set of things you have to do, and there's quite a lot of them, and I think it's quite overwhelming when you first start, because you have to do it in a certain way.
Yeah.
And there's lots of interactions. I don't know whether I'm doing some solo content. I'm actually in the process of editing another video at the moment, which I played last week while my son was away. I got a bit of more spare time, so I managed to get out and record a game. And I think it works quite well solo. I'm not brilliant at the game, so it's never going to be like top-notch content, or not for another 10 years at least. But I don't know how well it will work as 2 of us, because I think it can end up into sort of 2 old men going, should we, do you think you play that one and I'll play this one and then you do that one.
Yeah.
And I don't quite know whether, although I would love it to work, I don't know what sort of visual spectacle it would actually be, unless you just like watching 2 old blokes burble at each other.
Unless we could try and turn it into a storyline as we were going, but then I have this problem with any like Underworld's battle reports and stuff like that. Neither of us watch any of them really, so it's like, what do we know?
Don't know what's going on.
No, not a clue. So
well, yeah.
So if you are interested,
because there is actually a no.
Sorry,
for some reason we're talking over each other tonight. I don't know.
There's a bit of a delay somewhere.
Delay, yeah, that seems to be happening tonight. So apologies, podcast listeners, because I'm not going to edit it all out.
No, it's
been there forever.
But yeah,
yeah. What I was going to say was, you were talking about telling a story. There is a narrative version, or not a narrative version of the game, but there is a saga version of the game where you can play through either The Hobbit or through The Lord of the Rings. And that I would love to do that, but I just don't know how well it would actually translate into content, and it will probably be quite time consuming. But I guess we'll just have to see how we go.
Yeah.
As we move forward. Moving forward, we're staying in Middle Earth, I think, this week, because we are getting ready for our Middle Earth strategy battle game.
Looking forward to that. It's going to be
which is going to be our next
orcs and orcs versus, I can't remember what you play now.
Rohan.
Oh yes, you're the fighters of Rohan. You don't get any horsemen though, which is a bit of a shame.
The footmen of Rohan.
Yeah. They're not horsemen.
Yeah, all their horses have run off. I've actually got the trees right here. Sorry, podcast listeners. I've actually got the trees right here. And indeed, I have actually got a rider of Rohan here as well.
I'm going to order some.
I use them as a backdrop.
I'm going to order some wargs at some
point. For the LCG game.
That's quite a nice.
Order some wargs.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to order some wargs.
What are they good for?
Absolutely nothing, I guess. I presume.
That is what we were. That's what I was going for. Yeah.
Yep. And what we recently released. So there was recently a game of Shadowland Daredevil for MCP versus the Shield. So it was the Crime Syndicate featuring Elektra and Shadowland Daredevil versus the Agents of Shield with old Nick Fury and his agents, which was a good game.
Yeah, so that's Marvel Crisis Protocol. I think you very quickly said MCP there.
MCP, yes.
It's Marvel Crisis Protocol, and we picked up the latest additions to the game, which actually we saw us get a lift in viewers, which was quite nice.
A little bit.
Our MCP stuff was really fun to make, but hardly anybody watched it. Well, I think it was about double. Now, admittedly, double nothing is nothing, but it was. I think it did double.
Yeah, it did,
which is quite nice.
But then
I feel like Shield are very strong in that matchup.
Possibly. I mean, watch the game if you haven't, if you want to see. But yeah, there were some incidents in there that maybe the Crime Syndicate could have done better, but never mind. And we also released a game of Nethermaze, the core set matchup. So the Shadeborn versus Skittershank's Claw Pack, and I just prefer the name Skittershank to Scritch. Scritch is a bit difficult to say, but Skittershank just sounds better.
How is Scritch easier to say than Skittershank?
It's the T and the Ch sound like Scritch.
More difficult, sorry, more difficult.
Scritch.
Skittershank.
Skittershank.
I disagree. Scritch is the greatest.
Yes.
It's in the card. Exactly, it's in the cards.
Yeah, I still prefer Skittershank. So, but we released that one.
Is there a Skittershank is the greaterest card? I don't think there is.
And we did include a podcast wash-up with that, which I don't know if anybody's watched it. I'm very keen to see what people think of that. And I did wonder whether it would work better if we, for all you podcast listeners out there, whether it would work better if we did like an audio description of the game, like we do our MCP coverage. We do an audio description of it to just run through the game, how it played out, that kind of thing. I don't know if people would prefer that more if we just talked a bit more about what happened and what our thoughts and plans and hopes and aspirations and dreams were about the game as we were playing it, rather than just because we can't really say I moved so and so to hex B9 or whatever, because you're not going to be able to visualize that so much, so do away with that aspect. But that's something for a thought for another day, really.
Right. Yeah. Is that what you mean for a podcast, like a description of how the game went? Do you mean, or just like a? Right, okay. Because we briefly toyed with doing a narrative like we do for the MCP discussion on the videos, didn't we? But actually it turned out that you could pretty much see what was going on and it didn't really matter. So we ditched that. Yeah. I think because we're so used to narrating the games that we just narrate as we go along anyway. Yeah. So what have we got coming up then? Obviously we've got Middle Earth Strategy Battle game coming. Yep. And as I said, I've recorded another Lord of the Rings LCG game, which I'm about 10 minutes of an hour into reviewing, editing. Cool. I really enjoy editing. I could see why you lose hours doing it. It's very mindful. It's a nice process of you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You've got. I would say garbage, but that's a bit harsh. But you've got this sort of file that needs sorting out, and you gradually smooth it out and add effects, and it all comes out nicely at the end. It's quite good. It's almost like it's similar to the pacing process, I suppose.
It's like the digital equivalent of whittling.
yeah, it is. Yes.
Just slowly start to like the what? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking of the video of Hello by Lionel Richie. where the girl's making the head of him out of clay.
At the end, when she says, "This is the
Basically-
man harassing the
basically-
officer."
Exactly. Yeah, that's how I'm visualising it now. But yes.
But yeah,
Anyway, sorry.
I do find the
And-
digital editing process very mindful, because it's just a very easy task, but you get something quite good out of it at the end. Well, relatively good, but something that is actually quite pleasing to say, "Oh, I made that."
Something better.
Sorry.
Yeah, something better. It might not be good, but it's better than what we started off with.
Exactly. Yeah,
If you
and
see what I mean. Yeah.
it's very, very calming, because there's no real challenge to it. There's nothing very stressful going on. It's just quite an easy task to do. Because even painting can be quite stressful, but at least with editing videos, it's just I'll just cut this bit out, and then I'll just merge that bit or whatnot. And yeah. Very, very, very pleasing.
Yeah. It is pleasing. I've forgotten how much I enjoy it. So I need to make more videos so I can do more editing.
We also have a game.
And then,
have a game of Elector Counts, which will be coming out this week.
Oh yes. Yes, for
Which
those
is
of you
good.
watching, Electric House is there.
Yep. Where we had a threesome with John.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. We played that with John, didn't we? It was a three-way.
It was.
Which we played with John. So looking forward to seeing that actually, because I haven't seen the edit of that. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
It's up on YouTube for you, Robin.
Also, I guess we're going to play some more Marvel Crisis Protocol going forward, because you got the Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I bought Gambit.
Ooh.
Months ago. It feels like a long time ago.
It does seem like a very long time ago.
Try and get some more MCP to the table.
Yep.
While we're building up a little following. I did notice, and I don't think we're going to go back to it, but I noticed today, I think it was the same person or just two different people, but people have been commenting how good the Necromunda games were. Were we going to do any more? It's like, I'd love to, but we just time.
No, basically. No. It's just too many other
Yeah,
things.
what it boils down to. It's too complicated for a start.
That one was.
So what you've been painting, Pete?
I've not been painting. Well,
What
I
have you been
finished
painting?
I finished the Exiled Dead using the old slap chop.
Oh, cool. Oh, you redid them, didn't you?
I did.
Redid them.
I did. I repainted them. Something I
Yeah, it's
normally
been our
don't do.
painting. No, it's been our painting watchword, hasn't it? Slap chop.
Slap chopping.
I don't know if anybody's seen the whole slap chop. I say furore, but it's not really a furore. I think slap chop is basically just a silly word for underpainting, isn't it?
Or underbrushing, or whatever they call it. Yeah. So there's nothing particularly clever going on, but it's just a nice, quick way of painting models.
Yeah. So what do you do?
So basically, you take like a black or a dark grey undercoated model, and then you dry brush on a lighter grey or a white, depending on how stark you want to make the contrast. You can do layers of it if you want. I tend to go up maybe 2 or 3 different layers of grey up to Wraithbone nearer the top of the model. So it's a bit like a zenithal highlight. And then once you've done that, you just whack some old contrast on top, or another kind of, I guess you could use any kind of ink wash or something like that, really. And the contrast or the wash or whatever.
Anything thin.
Yeah, basically. And then the undercoat, the dry brush, sort of helps really bring out some of the details over top. So I think it's probably the way I'm going to paint most of my models from now on.
You do get quite a stylised finish, I think. I've done 3 models, so that's my painting recently. I've been painting some Moonstone minis, because we'll talk about Moonstone in a minute, but I've been painting some Moonstone minis, and I tried it on that because there was a Polygon article about it, the website Polygon, because the Honest Wargamer, he's called Rob, I think, the guy, Honest Wargamer, he used to work for GW.
Yeah.
He basically did a video on how to do it. And that it's been picked up. And I think so. Laura on our Patreon, Laura said that he actually coined the term slap chop as a bit silly for it. But this kind of method of doing it. So I thought, well, as it was the thing to do, and you've got some excellent results with your Exiled Dead, I think. I thought I'd give it a go, and I found it quite interesting. It makes you think about how paint works, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And I found for the flesh tones it didn't really work for me. It's come out a bit not really flesh coloured.
Yeah, the flesh tones I think are the more difficult ones to do. But I think if you're not going for regular human skin, it's not too bad. But I think if you want to try and make them more look more
so
human,
I had one human.
Yeah, it can be trickier in that situation.
it kind of looks like bits of him have died. If you know what I mean. So some of it's fleshy, but where it's gone dark, it doesn't look like shadowed flesh. It just looks like dead, grey flesh. So I did I did sort of re-highlight and add some extra layers of the flesh colour. It's okay. It's a look. It's definitely a stylised look, but it is quick. So I don't know. I painted those in about, I don't know, half the time, I reckon, of a usual mini. But now I've got a problem because I picked the 3 that I thought would be best for the method, and now I don't know whether to paint the other. I think there's 4 other minis left for the Moonstone starter set.
Oh dear!
I don't know whether to paint them in the same way or the normal, sort of more normal way, because I feel like they'd be better the normal way.
Yeah.
But then maybe they won't look right when they're all together. So I don't know. I have to decide. What to do. So Moonstone, I don't actually know very much about Moonstone, but lots of people in our Patreon group play it and say it's really, really good. And I love the miniatures. Check them out on their website. We'll perhaps try to remember. I'll put a description, link in the description of the podcast to the Moonstone game. But the miniatures are great, but you can just play with this starter set, and it's no dice, Pete. It's got this interesting card mechanic. So maybe after we've played a Middle Earth game and an MCP game, and maybe another game of Underworlds, then maybe we'll play some Moonstone. See how that goes.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good to me.
Brilliant.
It all depends on how much
too far behind.
MESBG takes off, really. If everybody loves that, then we'll crack on with loads of that as well, I think. But yeah.
Well, that's true. Yeah. It occurred to me, Pete. Do we need to make names and things for our people? Probably
do. There's a website you can create.
Rohan guys.
There's a website that you can actually go to track all your characters' stuff. Called Battle Companies Manager.
We need to do that.
So need to do check it out if you're interested in Battle Companies. Battle-companies-manager.com enables you to go along and sign up. You do need all the rules and stuff, so it's not like they're stealing anything from anyone, but it gives you a nice little online way to manage your
It's just like a little manager, a bit like Yak Tribe for...
It's kind of a bit like that, basically, yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to do that because we kind of played our practice game quite a long time ago, and then various things have happened, like you going out, so we haven't been able to play the actual recorded game. But we are doing that this Thursday. So that's a nice little community shout out you did there, Pete, because this is now the community segment shout out segment. I don't know whether you've got any more.
No,
I've found a couple of things in the last couple of weeks that have impressed me. There's a guy called Josh who is the at Prince of Bieltan. I don't know how to Bieltan. No, I should have checked with you first how to pronounce it. It's only when I came to read it I thought, shit, I don't know how to pronounce that. He wrote a really great piece on representation on the models, and sort of riffing off the new Stormcast model that's sort of black character, and it was a really interesting piece. And then he's a really on Twitter every Monday morning. I think he does this kind of positivity thing and talks about all the tell us about the great things that are going on in your hobby at the moment. So he has these really nice threads of lovely positive stuff, and then through him, so he's the at Prince of, what did you say, Bieltan?
Prince of Bieltan, yeah.
Yes, on Twitter, and then through him I discovered a guy who I think is more on Instagram called, I don't even know, Omegon Edge. So OMEGONE Edge. So EDGE on the end. So on Instagram, and he paints exclusively with oils.
Wow, it's brave.
And he actually, if you sign up to his website or his blog, then you can download his free guide, which is hefty, on how to paint with oils. Cool. Which I'm not sure I want to do, but it's quite interesting to see somebody painting in a different way. And actually, he's very good. And so he was actually at the recent Warhammer World event for the Horus Heresy stuff that they did, and his miniatures were in the cabinet.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So he was picked. So they're good quality, and that oil painting style suits the Horus Heresy because it's kind of grimy,
very grim, dark,
kind of. But yeah, exactly. So, but they're two really great hobbyists that I recommend you check out if you haven't already heard of them.
Cool.
So, and then moving on to general gaming news. Yes, now a bit of MCP, bit of Marvel Crisis Protocol. They have having announced the two new models for the previous issue we did of this. which I've already forgotten what they were called. They were from the Black Order, weren't they?
Yeah.
They've now announced that they're going to do Scourge and Heimdall. I do like the Heimdall model. Scourge I could take or leave. But that's quite interesting. I haven't got any Asgardians. I don't think you haven't got any Asgardians, either, have you? No. So I haven't got any Asgardians. I don't know whether we'll pick them up, but it was quite interesting to see them. And more interestingly, I think they've announced that they're going to do a Black Order affiliation box. So I think at the moment you have to buy them in
two boxes.
Two, yeah. 2 boxes. Now they're going to do 1 box of 4, and it'd be quite a bit cheaper. It's about 2/3 of the price of the 2 boxes.
Nice.
There's no indication whether there's going to be new cards in there. I think the general feeling of the community is that there shouldn't be, because obviously then people who've already bought the boxes might feel obliged to buy the thingies to get the cards, which would be a bit crap. So hopefully it's just reprints of cards in the box. But that's quite nice. And actually I do like the Black Order models, but I couldn't really see myself shelling out for 2 boxes of them. But it's almost like an affiliation in a box. It feels better.
Yeah, especially for the reduced price, because they're not cheap. So if you're going to buy them, you might as well save yourself some cash. But I'm not particularly interested in the Black Order myself. I don't like the Black Order. So, yeah.
Well, I don't know much about them. I do like the Ebony Moor, particularly in the films. He's pretty cool. So
I don't like them primarily because of the films, because they're just all nasty, horrible people.
Yes, that is true. I hadn't thought of it like that. Yeah, we'll only play good guys from now on. But you always play the undead.
Shut up.
Okay. They're just misunderstood. They're not evil.
Exactly. They just want to have your brains for a little bit, just a little while.
They can't help it. It's compulsion.
They're all Thanos' mates. I don't like Thanos. I think he's a wanker.
Yeah, he's not great. Just remember, Pete, I have to check is there profanity books in the podcast?
That's not a profanity, surely.
No, I'm just telling you. I'm not sure. I don't know where the line draws. I can't remember what phrase it uses. I'll try and look up what phrase it uses. It's a bit ambiguous. It's like one of those ones. Well, that word could be considered to be the thing that the way they describe it, but also most people would think, it's fine.
Yeah, it's a bit like, and this better not get caught by any kind of profanity filter, but you get this a lot more when dealing with dogs, is if you have a female dog, what's a female dog called? It's a bitch. And so you'll have people come up to you and you greet them in the street and their dog sees your dog and they go, is it a bitch? You're like, it's a bit rough. It's a female dog. I can't use that word.
I was brought up not to use words like that.
It's a lady dog.
Yeah. Can't you tell?
So what else is there?
She's got no beard.
Exactly. She has got a bit of a beard actually, but yeah. So what else is there in the gaming news world?
There's not a lot. I haven't had much time to trawl through exciting things, but things that did catch my eye. It was the Board Game Geek Awards last week, or maybe the week before. But there are a couple of games that I was vaguely interested in. They had Oath was the winner of the most Oath Chronicles of Empire Exile, which I think is written by the guys who make Root. That one, most innovative game. I think that's a game that I would love to play, but never will.
Yeah.
In fact, to be honest, most of these are. And then the light game of the year was won by a game called Cascadia, which is this beautiful kind of American national park. It's got lovely artwork. It looks amazing, but again, I would love to play it, but probably never will. And then the best co-op game was won by the Crew Mission Deep Sea. I don't know I don't think we've played the Crew.
No, I don't think.
Or did we play online once?
I
played online once with Ed and Stu.
Oh, okay.
It's a trick-taking game.
Oh yeah.
It's a trick-taking game where you all work together. So in the first one you're in space, and in this one you're in the deep sea, and you have to. And it's like a little campaign, and I love it. I think it's really great, but my family won't play it with me, or my wife won't play it.
Boo.
Like many games I want to play. So yeah, but that one best co-op. If it's anywhere near as good as the original version, then that's thoroughly deserved. Of course, in the intervening period, GW had a massive. In fact, it was like the day after the last podcast, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That we recorded. They had their big Warhammer. So it's really old news now. In fact, it's such old news. I went to look on the website on the Warhammer Community website to check what was announced and what have you. It's such old news; it just doesn't appear on there at all.
It's
so
last
this is
news,
probably 2 weeks out of date. Yeah, exactly. Which actually ties into our main topic tonight, I think.
Yes.
But of course, the big thing was that they announced the new Horus Heresy box set and a load of the stuff,
which is £200.
Well, I have heard that. Is that official? Yeah. Oh, it's going to be less than £200. Well, they said it's going to be less than £200, which presumably means it's £195. £199.
Yeah, exactly. £200 is just. I mean, there's a lot of plastic in there, but £200.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think
they've copied across the Forge World prices. I think.
I'm guessing we're going to see more and more of that. I mean, I know GW always get crucified on price, or they crucify their fans on price, depending on which way you look at it.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing with the rise of the cost of living and all that, and the board game components have gone through the roof, I'm guessing we're just going to see stupid price rise after stupid price rise, and not just for GW. I know GW get a lot of stick, but I think everywhere is going to have to raise their prices.
Yeah.
But £200 is an awful lot of money. For a box set. I mean, I'd love to, in theory, to play it, but in practice, it's never going to happen.
No, it's one of those things.
I would. Sorry,
it's one of those ones that I find very easily. I can look at and go, no, never going to happen. Next.
I wouldn't mind getting some of the Mark IV Marines. I've always liked those.
Yeah, the Beakies.
But they're going to do a little box of those, so I might treat myself and never paint them, which again we might come up in the main topic.
Maybe we should buy a box, we'll split it 50-50. I'll paint mine Death Guard, you can paint yours whichever chapter you want to do, and then we can and we'll just call that chapter
Put
finished.
On the shelf.
That's our Horus Heresy chapter over with.
Put them on the shelf. Oh, half each. Stop it. They announced new squats for Necromunda, moving swiftly on before I end up committing to something that I don't want to commit to.
Rubbish squats. Rubbish. They're not squats. They're like mini marines.
You don't like the squats, do you? Well, they're not. Yeah, I don't. I haven't followed it because it's just like squats, not squats. When is a squat not a squat? When it's a lunge jump.
When it's a whatever they call them.
I don't.
I can't remember what they call them. They've got to start with a V or something, don't they? And they're technically squats.
Oh,
but I don't like them where they are. Stupid. They're just mini marines. No, thank you.
It's not Vogons. They actually look like the new models look like what are they called? The Silurians. Is it Silurians?
With the big
Sontarans.
With the big heads and stuff.
Sontarans from Doctor Who. That's the first thing I saw, and I wasn't the only one. In our Patreon Discord, somebody else pretty much shared exactly the same thing. They look like Sontarans. Yeah. Not Centurions.
Sultanas.
Sultanas. New multi-headed Chaos Demon. I can only get so excited about
Demon Prince.
Well, what's the difference between a demon and a demon prince?
A demon prince is like better than a demon because it used to be immortal that was raised to the ranks.
The correct answer I was looking for there, Pete, was that the demon prince drives around in a little red Corvette. Our telepathic link isn't working this evening.
Or you could have had the demon prince is the demon formerly known as something like that. But yeah. As the 8-pointed symbol. Yeah. I mean, they're all right. I don't like the Nurgle head because the rest of the body looks the same across all the models, and I just fundamentally feel a Slanesh demon prince is going to look very different to a Nurgle demon prince versus a Khorne or a Tzeentch. So it's just like you might as well just paint them blue or red or pink or green.
I can sing a chaos rainbow.
But there was a scathing announcement.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like the model. Oh, yeah, you got very excited briefly about the scathing announcement.
And then they basically said, oh yeah, we've done another assassin model. Like, cool. I mean, it's not like they didn't already have a perfectly good assassin model, but fine.
Now, this caused a bit of controversy in the Patreon Discord. The announcement that the Cities of Sigmar are getting an overhaul. One person, who I won't mention, Morph, said that It was basically they were vanilla as shit, and he wasn't interested in it in the slightest. And I was the bit that I was about to, just literally as I read that, I was just about to come on. I come on to say, "Oh wow, they're going to overhaul the Cities of Sigmar. That's really great." But I guess just shows that everybody likes different things.
Everybody likes something different.
Because for me, the old world and all that kind of stuff via Tolkien, and I know they're going to be different to that, but that was the way in for me, and I've always thought it was a bit of a shame that they didn't really have any representation as such in Age of Sigmar, and it looks like they're going to give them a more interesting things, hopefully some new models. So I'm quite excited by that, even if other people aren't.
Well, yeah, it's just, I mean, it's good that everybody has different tastes. I quite like some of the old Age of Sigmar,
Yes.
the Warhammer, the old world, all that kind of stuff. That was always my entry point as well. So to have some Cities of Sigmar stuff coming out, that could be quite interesting. Not that it'll matter, we're not going to play it, but it's still nice to see.
No. I mean, one of the things that puts me off Age of Sigmar is the more banana stuff. I don't particularly like big models, and the game feels like it's all about the big models.
Yeah.
I'm not waving my arms about podcast viewers, but yeah, I don't feel like that.
Yeah.
For me, I quite like the small scale. I'd love a little small scale skirmish game set in the Age of Sigmar universe. Oh, Underworlds, no, but more freeform than Underworlds. There was some new Sylvaneth.
I was kind of
which
about those, the riders, the flying mounts, the wings looked a bit static on them for me. Some of the models looked quite nice. There were some things with big sort of dragonfly wings that had bows and stuff. They looked quite fancy. But some of the other stuff...
They were pretty cool.
Yeah, some of the other stuff reminded me of the old 7th edition Pterodon models, the metal ones that you used to be able to get, or any kind of flying model, metal flying model, which just had the really static airplane wings. And it was just... Yeah, they're okay, but they're nothing special.
Made me wonder whether we might see some nifty Sylvaneth, new Sylvaneth warband.
No, in the Underworlds, yeah, maybe.
Because we haven't had one for a while, and the one that we have had is a bit shite, and nobody plays.
Yeah.
So it'll be quite nice. And then the final thing was looks like there's going to be a whole new edition of Warcry, moving out from down into Gur into some forest or other. I did watch the trailer. I would like to like Warcry more than I do. So maybe it'll have a bit of an overhaul. Maybe that'll be something I might be interested in, but I still think it's going to suffer from the fact that there's already all this other stuff out there that I don't have and I don't understand, and I can't see myself getting into the new Warcry. But you never know. You never know,
but I think it's quite a safe bet that we won't get into Warcry because, it's funny because Warcry. I think if they'd made Warcry hex based, then it would have possibly had more of a chance to survive for us, because measuring and stuff was much more.
It's funny. I just said I'd love a small scale skirmish game in the Age of Sigmar universe, and of course that is Warcry.
Yeah.
So it just, I don't know. It just missed the mark for me. I know there's a few people who love it. It just missed the mark for me.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Which kind of I think probably brings us on to the main topic of the evening. Which is hobby fatigue. Because that kind of all of that gave me the thought about this topic, because there was a time I've been in the hobby for about 6 years again, or re in the hobby for about 6 years now. I think maybe 7. And there was a time when the Warhammer Fest announcements were exciting, and I was excited by them. But this, even before it came, I thought,
more stuff.
and I don't. Yeah, I think that's it. I think more stuff. Yeah, and I kind of try to put my finger on why it is. Why did I feel like that? None of the stuff particularly interested me, and going a bit further back, the Ash Waste stuff from Necromunda didn't interest me. And it's not just GW. There's been new releases for Fantasy Flight Marvel Champions, which I kind of like the idea of, but it's just too much. And I just feel like, I don't know about you, Pete, but I feel like I'm sort of pressed down by this weight of constant releases for whatever game system you play. Nothing can be static now, because life is a business. Nothing is static.
Yeah.
There's always more. You always got to look forward to the next thing.
Yeah. There's always just another thing coming and another thing coming, and I guess it's partly because GW has spent so long building up so many of their games, so there are so many different factions that are available for each one of those, that whenever they release a new version of it, they need to pretty much re-release stuff for most of the factions, if not all of them. They might really support all of them. I'm sure everybody's got their story out there of their faction that never got any attention after the last rules update of whatever it was that they were in, 40k or AOS or whatever. But for the most part, everybody tends to get a whole new bunch of models and rules and stuff every time there's a new rules release. And it's just incessant and never ending.
Yeah, it feels like that. I remember back, I don't know how long ago this was now, probably 4 or 5 years ago. They had the big story arc where Rabute Guliman was he resurrected or reawakened, and they had the cipher model, and they had this big thing, and that was really exciting. I thought, wow, that's really great. You know, that's a really interesting model, and I think I actually bought them to paint, and of course I never did. That interested me. That was exciting. But then they've done it again. They did it again a couple of years later, and then they did it. I don't know if they did it again, but yeah. But there's always, and so now I've kind of realised you're basically just on a wheel.
Yeah.
And each time it goes over, it just crushes you further into the ground. Or that's what it feels like. You're strapped to the outside of this wheel, like a Skaven Doom wheel or whatever it was.
I'll buy that. When's it coming out?
And so it just. So I find maybe it's just because I'm a bit jaded, a bit cynical now, but I just feel like it's just everything is just a vehicle, inevitably, but everything is just a vehicle to sell more stuff, and so it becomes harder to become excited about the new stuff because you just know that actually it's going to be replaced very quickly. And I think you've seen that, for example, as I mentioned, the announcements of the Warhammer Fest are completely gone. I mean, you can still find them, but there's nothing to show you that they existed on the front page of the Warhammer community website anymore. And that was only 2 weeks ago, and it's already kind of rolled on. We're looking forward to the next thing. If you look at our stats on our videos, the Nethermaze new release videos, the hits are great. When we did the first weekend of release, the hits are great. And I don't know about you people, I was thinking, oh yes, we must play more Underworlds because people love it, and we're getting loads of views, and we're getting lots of feedback, and it's really great, and it's really exciting. But then we did the starter set box 2 or 3 weeks later, and it's back to not no views, but back to
a few hundred,
maybe a third or a quarter of what we got on that. Well, only 200, so there's a fifth. We got over 1,000 on the other two. And that kind of, again, feels like, well, that's just because Games Workshop are so good at whipping up this hype. I mean, there may be other reasons, but again, I just feel like everybody is excited about the thing that's new that week, and then after that, it's gone, and we're looking forward to the next exciting thing.
There's definitely,
and that's how.
There's definitely that consumerism of got to keep the customers, got to keep the punter buying stuff. That's why we're on the iPhone 13 now, and we're, all that kind of thing. There's always got to be something else coming out to keep people buying, because if we don't, the economy will die and the world will end. Dead Hands has just said that you have basically just said everything that he was going to say. It's always shifting sands, and right. I mean, it's hard because in some ways I appreciate what they're doing. They release some absolutely amazing models. Some of the stuff they do looks fantastic, and makes me excited for some things, but not often. And more often than not these days, I just look at it and I think, I don't care anymore. I can't bring myself to care about this thing that's gonna be old news in another couple of weeks. And I also find that. And this might be just because of the situation we're in, our age, our predicament, and all the rest of it, and the fact that we don't get to play very often. I just know that half the stuff that I see, probably way more than half, probably 90% of it, there's just no point in me even thinking about buying it, because even if I do buy it and I do have a chance to stick it all together, and I do somehow manage to get some paint on some of it, the chances of us even playing it are vanishingly small. So what's the point?
Yeah, I feel a bit like that. I think maybe that's part of the appeal of Middle Earth, apart from just it being in Middle Earth. it's a fairly static platform, and I mean I know they do release new models, but there's only so much that they can do. And so everything that's out kind of like works in Metal Companies or the game, which we're not necessarily going to play the full game, but it's a bit more stable. Whereas with their own IP or other games, not just GW, we always feel like we're down on GW. I don't think it's a GW phenomenon. I think they're particularly good at it. But I think all companies, because by necessity, all companies have to keep churning the wheel. But it's not just them. But I feel like companies that can make their own stuff, they have to keep making new rules, new. It's just like as Dead Hand said, shifting sands is a brilliant way of describing it.
And I think GW
just running on sand dunes.
And whilst it's not only GW, they are by far the biggest company out there, throwing out the most plastic on a weekly basis and releasing the most new stuff.
Although just as I've got a little note here. For myself, as a sort of counterpoint to it being GW, D&D, if you look, I don't really follow D&D that closely, but they are forever bringing out new resources, new resource books, new adventure books, new this, that and the other, and Pathfinder's the same actually. So it's not plastic, but it is rule books, because we all love a rule book, or a certain demographic of us do love a rule book with some charts in, and that's just the same. They publish, not quite, but almost more words than you can read in a year. They publish, and people buy them.
I would say one of the big differences there, though, is if it's like a new adventure or a new campaign setting or something like that, you don't have to buy that. But if it's 40k, for example, if you're in 40k and they release new models for your army, you're probably going to have to buy them if you want to stay competitive. Obviously, if you're like us, then you won't.
That is true.
Yeah, with models at least, they might re-release new stuff if they release a new version of the game, or like with Necromunda, they've released new things in there. You kind of have to buy that more to stay relevant or to stay current. Obviously, if you don't care about being current or relevant, then you don't have to bother. But I think there's at least more must-buy potential there in the miniatures area than there is with just campaign settings or things.
That is actually a perfect segue into another comment I've written down, Pete. So that's brilliant. The Honest Wargamer in that little bit about Slapchop, the reason he was saying you should do Slapchop painting is because it's really fast, and the reason you need to do it really fast is that you have a limit with the release schedule. You have a limited amount of time in which your army is any good to actually play it with it, and so you want it painted as fast as you possibly can, which I know that only pertains to competitive gaming.
And I think competitive gaming is a much smaller part than casual gaming. But
yeah, it is. It is now. I haven't really got any strong evidence for this. It's purely anecdotal or gut feeling. It is, but at the same time, I think people like to play what's good. Even if they're not competitive, nobody wants to rock up with the army that's going to lose. Not nobody. Okay, not nobody, but there's a lot of people who don't want to. So even if they're not like ultra competitive, and I think, and we've seen it with Underworlds as well. In theory, you can play not championship meta, but if you turn up at a game,
if you turn up at a campaign,
if you turn up at a just for an Underworlds evening, I think the expectation is that you will have a championship, or certainly you won't play anything that breaks the championship. Also, you might bring worse than championship, but you won't bring ready for action and old season cards. I think there's an expectation that you won't do that. So people, even if they don't play at the top ultra competitive level, I still think they like to play.
I think that there is a
competitive-ish.
there's definitely a difference between casual players, competitive players. There is a range in the middle there. So there's maybe you could call them like competitive casual or casual competitive players. So they might not go to tournaments, but they still, when they play games with their mates, or if they go to the game club and just meet some people and play games, they still want to play, whatever's the current new hotness out there or whatever.
Well, yeah, or they don't want to start off 10 metres back from their opponent because they've got an old army that's not great. And I think it's just a shame that we I mean, I think speed painting techniques are good. So, but I think it's also a shame that people are saying, well, actually, you need to paint these as fast as you possibly can, otherwise, they're not going to be any good on the tabletop by the time you finish. And that's a shame, because if you want to take your time, then you're just like, well, I'm sorry, you can't do both. You can't be competitive and paint. I mean, I'm not sure how many people. Well, there are people who do both.
There'll be some people that can knock out amazing armies in a very short time and be able to get them to a tournament. But I think that it is. I agree. It is a shame that they're basically saying you've got like a 6-month window tops before your army's going to get hit with a nerf bat or something else is going to come out that's going to be better, and you're not going to be top dog anymore. And so you've got
nerf bat.
You've got a. Have you never heard that one? The nerf bat or the nerf hammer, whichever one of those ones. So
nerf hammer, but nerf bat. I actually thought of like a bit like man bat or Batman.
Nerf bat. What I did once is I bought my kids one year. We bought them some lightsabers. They're like foam lightsabers, but the foam's not very thick on them, so they hurt like hell if you hit each other with them. So what I did was I got some very thick pipe lagging and just stuck them on the end. They've got these massive thick lightsabers that they just smack the hell out of each other with, and it doesn't matter because they can't really hurt each other.
That sounds good fun. You should bring those.
Yeah.
You should bring those to the studio one day.
Yeah.
We'll have a Nerf mallet fight.
But yeah, it is a shame that people are saying here's a really quick way to paint your army, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to play with them whilst they're at their best. Like, it should just be a case of here's a really quick way to paint your army, so that you don't waste what little life you have just painting.
Paint your army.
Yeah.
I just feel like the whole hobby, not just this hobby, but life, I suppose, is the whole thing is geared towards like the next thing. You've got to get the new thing all the time, and it's everything. Life is made to make you feel like you want. Everybody's got to get the next thing. If you haven't got the new thing, then you're behind, and then you end up accumulating stuff. And coincidentally, although possibly made me think of having this as a subject, I've been reading a book called the Book of Form and Emptiness, which is by a woman called Ruth Ezeki. She is a Zen Buddhist monk, among many other things that she does. And in this book, there's a woman who it's quite a sad book, because it's about a mother and son whose the father dies, and they both can't deal with their grief. But she reminded me of me, like a more extreme version of me. I've actually reviewed the book on Geek Dad. I might share the review on our Facebook page. She has these ideas. She likes the idea of doing craft stuff, and so when she's feeling down, she goes out and buys new craft stuff. And then, of course, she doesn't actually have time because she's got a job and she's got this teenage son who's got mental illness, and so she's trying to sort him out, or trying to help him while dealing with her own stuff. So she's never got time. So she buys this stuff, and it sits and it accumulates in the house. And then she looks at it and she feels bad that she hasn't done it. And to make herself feel better, she goes out and buys more, because the interest of doing the new project is, that's the thing that fills her with excitement. And it's me. I just bought Moonstone. I've got, how many projects have we got on the go? About 1 million. But I went and bought Moonstone because that was exciting. The prospect of starting Moonstone was exciting. And I think GW, FFG, Wizards of the Coast, all those people, they buy into that. A lot of us want to.
It's not even just hobby games.
The idea of doing the new
selling
thing.
Stuff, basically.
No.
So,
Tapping into that excitement, the new excitement of the new, and the possibility, and the reality of it is
reality is much more,
always a bit more mundane.
Yeah, the reality, when you get the box, you sort of go, oh, I've got to stick it all together, and then I've got to paint it all now. Oh god. And that's where games a bit like Underworld and even like Moonstone and stuff kind of win a bit more, because you don't have to paint them. Especially with some like Elect Counts, there are no models. It's just or Ascension Tactics. It's just cards. So you just set the game up and you play it. But it's not quite the same feeling as when you play like 40k or Age of Sigmar or Battles of Middle Earth, a strategy game, the Middle Earth game.
No,
it's a different thing when you've got the table and the sweeping vistas and all the terrain and the painted models. it's not quite the same as sitting down with a deck of cards, and so you don't get quite that same.
No, but even board games like Ascension. I mean, like I said in the beginning, there's about 10, 11 at least editions of Ascension.
Yeah.
The card game. So not the one with not Ascension Tactics, but I'm guessing there'll be new versions of that, and they have new rules and they have new things, and if they give you new experiences, and people buy them because they're interested and they like it, but then they don't play the old stuff. And I have this problem on the board game side too, that you buy a board game because it looks really interesting, but you have 10 other board games that you've bought that are really interesting. You've maybe played once or twice. A board game that gets played 10 times is pretty rare, I think.
Yeah, unless it's a really simple one. Yeah,
and I know I feel like you might be one of these people. I love the idea of legacy board games, but I've got friends who hate the idea of a legacy board game because you have to tear up components or destroy things and you can't play it again. You've only got a finite number of times you can play it because you have to destroy things. But I think like the first one was Pandemic Legacy. It wasn't the first one. Risk Legacy was the first one. But Pandemic Legacy was the first one that kind of exploded onto the scene. And I think you can only play it 26 times twice or something. So you can play through twice, but you can only play each playthrough is 26 games. And people are like, well, I can only play this game 52 times. Well, I bet most people in their collection haven't got very many games they've played. I suspect
there's probably almost no board games that have been played more than like a couple of dozen times of that kind. Obviously Underworlds, which is technically a board game, we've played a lot more and stuff like that, but for that kind of thing, but not with just Reavers and Stormcast.
Exactly. So we've bought extra stuff.
Exactly.
So you end up. Sorry.
So I was just agreeing with you. Yeah, I think it's that thing that people go, oh, I can only play this 32 times, or I bought this video game, but it's only got 4 hours of gameplay. Like, yeah, but you probably won't even get through that. So shut up.
Yeah, I mean, video games are completely passed by. I know nothing about them. I haven't played a video game since Half-Life. That's not quite true. I did play Half-Life 2, but I never finished it because it was too hard. But I haven't played a video game since then.
Dead Hands has pretty much sort of summarised everything we've been saying here, which is that it is that whole fear of missing out. An experience is the main incentive. But when you get the thing, this is what he said. So that was what he said. But just to append to that, then, that when you do finally buy that thing, as we said, you realise the experience isn't actually any different to what you've already got. So it just sits on the pile.
Yeah, it's that little serotonin hit of clicking the buy button and the stuff arriving in the post, and you open
it's like we've seen posts. We very often see posts on Facebook of when the new thing comes out. Someone goes, "Oops, spent £1,000, lol," and there's boxes and boxes of plastic, and then like you can almost time like 6 months later. There's going to be for sale. Set £1,000 worth of stuff, one box opened and half assembled, looking for £300 or nearest offer type thing. You're like, it's just horrific. And there was that guy once we saw pictures online where he literally could have opened a shop with the like £50,000 worth of stuff he had, all the classic boxes and things. It's just like buying it for the sake of having it, but there's no.
A lot of it in the shrink.
Yeah.
He says, not looking at his shelf where there's things in the shrink. But they're fairly new at least. But yeah, I mean, the Lord of the Rings card game. I've joined the Facebook groups of that, and there are people who've said, "Oh, this game looked interesting," so I bought absolutely everything that was available for it. It's like, well, dude, just buy like 2 or 3 things just to check that you like it.
Buy the starter box and maybe an add-on and see how it goes. Maybe. Yeah,
I was very good with Moonstone because. I only bought a starter box. I didn't buy any extras, and I was tempted. But fortunately, the company that I bought it from, or the shop that I bought it from, had free delivery on the other bits too. So I thought, well, I only need to buy the starter set now. There's no saving of buying more now because I get free delivery on the other bits if I ever want them.
I mean, looking at the shelf behind me and the shelf behind you, we're certainly not exceptions to the rule. We're not saying this from plebs, you don't know how to behave kind of thing.
I'm terrible. Yeah. I'm terrible, and actually reading that book is what made me realise that I need to kind of be a little bit better because you can't take it with you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and it doesn't bring you happiness at the end of the day.
And at some point in the process, you're probably going to have to get rid of it because at some point you just go, never going to play this anymore, never going to do anything with it. I already wonder about things like our Kill Team stuff. It's like, we're not going to play Kill Team again. That game is pretty much dead. But we've still got a Warcry as well. We've got all the Warcry stuff. It's like, do we need to keep that? I mean, we will, because it's easier than getting rid of it.
I just got rid of the previous game, the previous iteration of Kill Team.
Yeah.
but yes, that, very much so. And some of this ties in. I like to do a question every week or every fortnight from Mr. Marlowe, Andrew, our
Mr. Marlowe did pop in earlier to say that he was just saying hello and to keep up the good work, but I think he's had to disappear off again. So thank you for that, Mr. Marlowe.
He's good because he always gives us questions, and his question is: if you had time, which game would you like to play more of, and why?
Ooh.
I'm gonna let you answer that first.
What would I like to play more of? Ooh, there's a lot. There's quite a lot in that potential sphere. Trying to think of all the games we've started and then not got anywhere with. And possibly, and we mentioned it earlier, possibly like Necromunda. If I had the time, that would be something I'd possibly like to go back and play more of. Because I find that game's very time intensive, not just during the game, but in between the sessions, working out what your gang is going to do, making new gang members up when you need to, converting models, all that kind of thing. And I ain't got time for any of that, but it sounds like it would be amazing to do. So that's possibly the game I would like to play more of if I had the time.
Yeah, I that isn't the game I would choose, but you saying that, I think you're right. I think that would be a really good choice because it's almost an entire hobby to itself.
Yeah,
you could play Necromunda and never have to play any other game again, especially if you like building and painting models. I mean, you can do amazing scenery and terrain and stuff. So yeah, that would be a good one. Mine, I'm going to sort of cheat a little bit. Probably no surprise to you actually. But actually, no, I'm going to change my mind. What I would really love to play if I had more time is the Journeys in Middle-earth game that we played one game of and live streamed it to our patrons. It's a kind of cooperative miniatures dungeon, well, it's not dungeon, but wilderness exploration game. I'd love to get into that. I'd love to play that every week, get into it, and build character and find out how it goes. I think that's probably what I was going to say, the Lord of the Rings living card game, because I really enjoy that, but it's quite time consuming.
Yeah.
But I think in reality I'd love a bit more of a visual spectacle as well, with all the miniatures and the time to paint all the miniatures and all that kind of stuff. So I'd probably say the Journeys in Middle-earth game from Fantasy Flight.
I think for the most part though, if I'm honest, if I had more time I'd just play more games. I'd love to play more Aeronautica Imperialis.
More different games.
Yeah, just more different stuff. I'd love to play more Crisis Protocol. I'd just like to play more things. Even stuff like I'd love to play like Space Crusade. I'd love to upgrade all the models and get all modern versions of all the models for that. And I've seen people have done them on eBay and stuff like that. They look fantastic, and it would be brilliant to do, to paint up a whole new set of Space Crusade models and then playing Space Crusade through them. But yeah, time.
Yeah, Space Hog.
Yep.
I'd like to properly learn how to play Space Hog.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be another cool one. And again, it's like time. I'm not sure I'd actually want to play 40k or AOS now, though. I don't think those games really appeal to me as much.
No. I'd actually like to do more role playing as well.
I've told you, I'm not putting that thing on.
That's just me. In-person role playing. I do a little bit of online role playing with a couple of patrons and a friend, which is really good. I really enjoy that. But I would love to sit round a table again and play. But again, I can't see it happening at the moment.
I think that one's
just channel, man. It just takes up too much time.
That one's trickier as well, because you need to definitely find a game that everyone's interested in. And I think we had it where we tried a few different game systems in our old roleplay group, and some of them people just weren't interested in. I think we did the Pathfinder version 3.5 or whatever it was. I didn't care about that. It was just so many calculations and things. I just didn't care. But when we were doing Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, I was much more interested in that.
Yeah, I think that was partly my fault because I tried to do too much of the Pathfinder stuff. But we don't need to get into that now. But yes, I think I also have different. We've talked about it before. We had different needs in the group, which weren't being met. You weren't meeting my needs, Peter. But just to sort of tie this all back in, having answered Andrew's question, the hobby fatigue and this kind of constant rolling of stuff coming out, I wonder whether it's going to have to slow down. I don't know whether it can slow down, but I don't know if you've noticed, but we're in a cost of living crisis. The government's noticed, we noticed, but we won't talk about politics. I kind of see it maybe with Underworlds that they've kind of shied away a little bit from the you've got to buy it all method. They're kind of pushing Rivals and Rivals Plus through Nick's tournaments and what have you.
Yeah, which is good, really, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think for the survivor of Underworlds, it needs to have people who don't. It needs to appeal to people who don't want to buy everything.
Yeah.
But I wonder whether. I mean, because at the end of the day, all of this stuff, whether it be D&D, whether it be Marvel Champions or Marvel Crisis Protocol or Warhammer or whatever it is all just a hobby.
Yeah.
And people are going to have less time if they need to work longer hours, money if they don't work longer hours but need to actually pay for food. All that stuff, is the cost of it's going to go up, and the money that people have available is going to go down. So I wonder, is it just going to carry on like a juggernaut, do you think? Or do you think we'll see some, I don't know how it would manifest itself, but some acceptance that people who have less money will have less money to spend on hobbies?
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some kind of downturn at some point, hasn't there? With the cost of things continually going up and up and up and up, it can't continue on at this trajectory, really.
I feel like it has to. I wonder whether, this is a bit of a generalisation, but I wonder whether the demographic of Games Workshop kind of, or role players, all that kind of thing, they kind of tend to be youngish, kind of IT type jobs. You know what I mean? Quite they have quite a lot of spending power, and I wonder whether they'd be more insulated to the cost of living crises.
I mean, maybe than
some
I know a lot of our patrons don't fit that mold, but then they also aren't the typical sort of hobbyists. They don't buy not all of them buy everything. You know, we have a lot of people in there that haven't bought new stuff in absolutely ages, and are still paying stuff from a while ago. And I think quite often we end up buying new stuff or new games either because we've been sent a review copy, like with Ascension Tactics, in which case we haven't spent anything on it. Other than our time to play it and review it and do videos for it, that kind of thing. I mean, I've just bought some Warg Riders for Middle Earth. But I think that's the first.
Just like literally,
yeah. But that's like the first thing I've actually.
Because I'm sure at the beginning of this. Sorry, I'm sure at the beginning of this conversation, you said you were going to buy them. So you actually just.
I can do.
Did I miss that, or did you do it while we were? Did you do it while we were online?
Yeah. I can multitask. This is the problem.
Oh, do tell me if I'm boring you, won't you?
I've got very good with working online, being able to do multiple things, have conversations with colleagues, and do other stuff at the same time, like order models. No, I haven't. But it's like
so just a colleague now, right? Okay.
But it's like, that's the first thing I think model-wise that I've bought in several months. I don't think I've actually bought models since then, because things like the XR Dead and stuff, all the Underworld stuff we got, that was all sent to us.
You've bought a few MCP things. You bought a few Marvel Crisis Protocol.
When was that? Well,
I gave you some.
Well, yeah, you gave me some, which you'd had bought for you or whatever. And yeah,
I think somebody was selling the box cheap, so I bought it. The one I gave you.
Could that have been Will and Games by any chance?
It wasn't. I think it was Ed.
Oh, okay.
When Ed flirted with his own game store, I think he had a damaged box or something. I can't remember now, but yes, he sold it to me for a little bit less than the asking price. So
it'd be interesting to hear from people listening, watching this later on or whatever. when was the last time they bought something for the hobby? I wonder. I haven't. I mean, if you go online, you're always going to see people crowing about the £1,000 worth of models they've just bought or whatever. So I think that's a really.
I think that's the thing. I know.
I think that's a really bad place to look to get an idea of how people's spending patterns are going. But I think if you actually go around and talk to people and find out what they're doing, I wouldn't be surprised if it's much less than it used to be, or is becoming much less as people just sit and go, it's this or gas, and I can't not heat the house type thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right, because you're right. Our patrons are definitely not kind of big spenders in the hobby, whereas I was thinking more of the stereotypical posts. I just see it always says over the years, Games Workshop fans, no matter what was going on with the economy or what Games Workshop doing to the prices, they just seem to keep buying it. And I wonder at what point it has to stop.
And they'll buy it whilst they complain about it. Like, don't pay for it then. Don't buy it. If you're sitting there complaining about it, don't buy it. That's what you need to stop and say, actually, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to buy this thing.
Yeah, I don't want to. But I don't know. It's hard. But I do feel like fatigue is setting in a little bit. Yet at the same time, I'm always eyeing up what the next thing I might want is. I think the thing is though, I've kind of realised that it's kind of all the same, whether it be for Marvel Crisis Protocol or Warhammer or whatever's coming out. It's basically the same thing. It might look different, but it's basically selling the same experience that it's always sold.
Yeah, and I think
there's nothing new.
It's
even in the new stuff.
I think once you get down to that point, you sort of get to that stage where you realise it's a new, a new shiny thing, but actually it's no different to the last shiny thing they brought out last month or whatever. We have a couple of comments actually.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Oh,
Better Coil Q said, "Want to become famous?" No, we don't. Thanks very much, but I'll just block you in a moment. Jeeves Gazza says, "Does £100 plus on UK Games Expo tickets count?" I guess it might even be worse once you actually get there and then buy like several £100 worth of games.
Does 3D printing resin and STL files count? I don't know. That's another interesting. But that's a way in which companies like GW might lose money, I suppose, because people might save money for themselves by printing their own.
I mean, will they though? I mean, from all the experience I've gained from reading up about 3D printing online, having a 3D printer is its own hobby and its own expense its own sort of like money sink. So I feel like any money you'll save from the 3D printer, you'll lose in time maintaining it. And the models, whilst there are some incredibly nice models out there, even the really nice ones, like Tom did some halflings for us a while ago, even though they're really good, in fact the more I look at these are really good, but they're still not quite the same level as, like I've got a Death Guard model here and I'm looking at two, they're different levels of good. So it's like they're good. Yeah,
but I think that's a GW. The comparison with GW is that nobody's there yet. But Tom has also printed for me, and I've actually paid some guys to print for me some Star Wars stuff, which admittedly you haven't got the rules for, so it's not quite the same, but they are, I would say, indistinguishable.
Yes.
Because they're a bit more like the MCP. They're a bit more like the MCP ones. The level of detailing isn't.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah. Well, I'm looking at a Storm model here, and actually, the detail when comparing the two, they're pretty much the same. So, yeah. Yeah.
So, but you're right about it being a hobby in itself and an expense in itself. So I don't. But I wonder whether could there would just be more outlets, people selling. I mean, because you can get pretty much, if you look around, you can get stuff printed, and it costs you less than buying.
Yeah.
The fantasy flight. Direct comparison. If you want to buy Star Wars stuff, you can buy different sculpts, and it costs you less than the Fantasy Flight stuff. You can't use it in official tournaments, but it costs you less, and you can find people to print it, so you haven't got the hassle of having to print it all yourself. And actually,
I guess the thing with GW is they can still offer one thing that you can't get from a 3D printer, which is accessing like tournaments. If you're into the tournament scene, they can stop you on that front, or playing in their stores, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
very much so. Very much so.
Again, I don't think that's going to be a particularly large proportion of the market. So I think whilst GW might lose some sales to 3D printers, I think they're looking at single-digit percentages that they're probably not going to be. I think I don't think the people who are going to be going over to 3D printing would probably have been spending a lot on GW in the first place.
No, I suppose, I guess, I'm still not sure they will. There are other systems which would allow you to use 3D printing models that you can move to.
Yeah.
And so that will be a wholesale move away from like if you move to Oathmark or Dead Zone, you could then use whatever models you liked, theoretically. But GW has a very loyal baying rabid fan base that simultaneously hates it and loves it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, GW have basically hit. They're masters of what they do, and they have completely cornered the market in the respect that they have managed to get a group of people, like you say, that are not only rabid fans but absolutely hate them somehow at the same time, but they still keep buying all their stuff. So
yeah, I suppose it's like Star Wars fans.
Sorry.
The bigger the fandom, the more crazy.
Yeah, yeah. but they they don't go. They sit there, and the next thing comes out where they give a part to a black female actress or whatever, and the neckbeards scream about all this bullshit equality nonsense or whatever.
Anything.
They don't go anywhere. They're still there the next week buying everything and whatever. So it's like, okay.
Shouting, "This is not my Star Wars. It's not my Doctor Who," or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, oh, shut up, idiots, and just go out and buy it. You're going to, and shut your face.
I finished a book this week.
What are you getting very close to the camera for?
I changed the subject. I finished a book. I'm just telling you. I'm stretching in case I don't get cramp.
You read a book this week?
I finished a book. I finished June.
I read a book once.
I finished June.
You finished June. You're ahead of schedule because it's only June, May. You're well ahead of schedule.
I know. I thought I'd drag it out. because we've kind of done. We've done this.
Mine was
but I finished June.
Mine was a pun on the fact that June sounds like the month June. I kind of felt a bit flat.
No, I'm still in May.
Never mind. Never mind. So you finished June.
I did. So I hadn't read it before, and we have, for those of you who don't know, we have a Patreon book club, which is really fun. It's kind of a bit of a casual affair. I don't know anybody. I think I might be the only one left reading it because everybody's reading it at different speeds. Some people read it 20 years ago, but I picked June. I've always wanted to read June, but always thought I should read June. And obviously with the film and everything, which I do want to see, but I wanted to read the book. I finished and read it, and it was fun. It was good. It was good. It wasn't always fun. It's an unusual book. I can't quite, but it hasn't dated at all. I don't think. I found it quite hard to believe in some ways it was written 50 years ago because it feels quite modern.
That's the thing. Quite often you read these things, and it's like the Dragonlance series. You read that now, you're like, oof, this has not aged well.
Yeah. No. I haven't tried to read that again, but I have heard that. I haven't recommended it to people. I mean, this was even this was 20 years ago, but recommended it to people. I go, oh God, no, it's really bad now. But I haven't gone back to it because I did really enjoy it.
Don't go back. Just enjoy that memory.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Never go back. Never go back. So we're going to start a new book club book, which is going to be Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson. Which again, I love Neil Stevenson, but I've never read that one. That's supposed to be like his first big book. So I'm looking forward to reading that. Cool. So I don't suppose anybody will join the Patreon just to join in our book club. But if you do want to, you can find out how to join the Patreon in the show notes, or find us on Facebook, and come and join in. That would be lovely.
Scarecrow says that he loves the Dragonlance books. It's only been a few years since he last read them. I mean, I loved them, but at the same time, I did find when I read them, as like these are showing their age a bit now, and I think. Whilst the art of writing doesn't age, I think the style of writing does, and I think they definitely show their age for the style of their writing and stuff like that. Because it's not like people have gone writing; no one bothers with that anymore. But
I haven't looked at them. I don't even know if I've still got them. I might have because I loved them, and I bought them in Games Workshop actually, but I had the old TSR covers.
Oh yeah.
Before they were picked up by the UK publisher,
Yeah.
and they were really nice covers. I really liked them. I think they were just the covers that were on the original D&D modules.
Yeah. Because it was like a D&D session, wasn't it?
I'd love.
We digress, but
Yeah, I think that's how it started. I would love to play. I don't know if they're going to bring it out for 5th edition. I think I heard they were going to. I would love to play it. I mean, I never will. I'd love to play in the Dragonlance thing. I never will. But it's another thing to answer Andrew's question. That'd be something else I'd have to do if I had the time.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think we're kind of drifting towards the end. I was
kind of.
I've got
that kind
opinions
of
left.
summarises our entire hobby fatigue, drifting towards the end.
Drifting towards the end, or just life.
Yeah,
really.
pretty much. Just how life goes.
Or just
Drifting towards
it's
the
downhill from now on.
So you say you have an unpopular opinion to round us off?
I do, and it is one I've done before on the live chat, but it was a while ago. And I'm going to do it again because we're now on the podcast, and we're hoping to bring in podcast listeners. And it ties in because I've been playing more card games. And it's this my theory that card sleeves are a scam. and it ties in with the consumerism thing. I feel like somebody somewhere has convinced you have to keep your cards in pristine condition.
And not only an A sleeve,
and if you
but
don't,
in a secondary sleeve too, to protect the first sleeve.
Secondary sometimes, yeah. And I do appreciate there are some games where they could be useful if you play with the same cards a lot. But as we've discussed today, the whole of the hobby is made to make you keep buying cards. Yeah. so or whatever it is. So sleeving them is like I mean we sleeve quite a lot, if not all of our Shadespire collection.
We did, for a while.
But it was an utterly futile and pointless exercise because we could only use them for 2 years. Well, not all of them, but most of them we could only use for 2 years.
And we didn't use a large chunk of them
pointless.
ever anyway because they were sucky.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I feel like I can understand like people play the Lord of the Rings LCG that you should sleeve them because you'll be able to start telling. I mean, in cooperative cases, it's more pointless because at the end of the day, if you can tell what the next card coming is, does it really matter?
Yeah.
Possibly if you're a purist, but if you're having a good time, I'd much rather have a slight advantage than pay another 100 and however many pounds it would be to sleeve my cards.
I also don't think we're because obviously some of this comes a little bit from the fact that there was some of the original Magic the Gathering cards, that sold for thousands and thousands later on. I don't think we're at that stage anymore in the world. Like people who were digging out their old Star Wars figures that they kept in the box from the 70s. I don't think that's happening anymore with mass production and stuff like that. The only time things are worth buying as a collector's item, they're generally created as a collector's item in the first place, and they don't have any, there's never any intention that people are going to take these things out of their boxes. So, and I think...
Yeah, I mean, there are some rare Pokemon cards, I guess, that some cards have built-in scarcity, and maybe you want to sleeve, but you wouldn't... I'm not sure you'd play with that, even if do you know what I mean? Even if it was in a sleeve, no. I still think you would just... You
just take it box and go, I have this card,
that's a slightly different
and
thing.
now I've photocopied it, and it's in my deck, and I'm playing with the photocopy.
Yeah.
If it's worth...
And so I just feel like the people who convinced you that you needed to put your cards in the sleeves were just, scamming you.
And I know some people...
And, particularly with the destruction of the planet, because they're all made of plastic. Yeah. It's even more unnecessary plastic.
And I know some people will buy a new game that will come with 1 billion cards, like Ascension Tactics, and then they'll go out and spend almost as much in plastic sleeves to sleeve all those cards. And it's like, it's pointless, because even if you play that game 100 times and some of those cards get a bit dog-eared, it doesn't matter. And I remember having this conversation years and years ago with a guy when someone was talking about Underworld for the first time, and someone basically said, do you sleeve your cards? And I think I said something about, you probably will need to sleeve them if you want to play competitively, because the colours on the backs were quite obvious to tell the difference.
Of course, you definitely need to now.
You definitely need to now, yes, because they
GW
changed the backs entirely.
Balls out the car.
But I said you possibly would have to in a competitive setting, because I think that's generally the rules and it can be possible to cheat. But if you're playing casually, I wouldn't bother at all. And somebody else basically came along and said not only should you sleeve them, but you should double sleeve them. And I just thought, you're fucking mental. There's just no way is that ever a suit.
Well, now I'm going to have to tick that box, aren't I, on the language?
Yeah, afraid you are. But I think it's worthwhile for that, because that is just the most mental thing in the world. If you think you need to double sleeve something, no. Unless it's to prevent some kind of sexually transmitted disease, nothing needs to be double sleeved ever.
That was a much better way of putting that joke than I was going to make. So thank you. Mine was going to be definitely. I would definitely be ticking that box.
Unless it's your John Thomas, you don't need to double sleeve it. Because these things are just going to get chucked away. You're not going to sell this stuff in years to come, and someone's not.
I mean, people do sell it, but not for much.
It's not going to make more than the cost of all those sleeves in the first place. It's just mental. And I know some people are very picky about, I don't want people to touch the cards with their sweaty, dirty hands. Like, then you should leave all of it in the box and keep it at home and never interact with humans, because that's life.
Yeah.
The only card, there's only one.
I think Jeebus does make a very.
Sorry, go on. After you.
Because I was going to change the subject slightly, so you say.
I was just going to say, there's only one card that ever needs to be sleeved.
Ready for action!
If any of our YouTube, our podcast listeners out there, I still have my Ready for Action card sleeved, and it's in some Uber sleeve as well. It's in like this extra double
proper Pokemon.
It is. It's massive because I bought a card online once on eBay, and it came in one of those. So I was like, I know what's going in there. Comically, it was a card for Age of Sigmar Champions. Do you remember that? No one cares about that anymore.
Oh yeah.
Bet people sleeved tons of cards for that game. What a waste.
Yeah, I haven't got those anymore, and I don't think I have. I do have Ready for Action, but I couldn't tell you where it is. Jeebus Gatherers does make a good point that he just think they will be collectible things, because we still throw stuff away and then stuff becomes desirable. I think that is true.
Yeah.
Obviously, it won't necessarily be Star Wars, because people will more likely keep that, but there'll be something from now or 10 years ago that is popular.
Yeah, I don't think it'll ever be the same kind of thing.
Like maybe the first Rick and Morty play sets or whatever.
Whatever it is, yeah, whatever it's something. I'm sure there'll be something.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
I don't think that really applies to
kind of
things
thing.
like. I don't think it's generally things that you see coming now, because people are buying things like stuff and they go, oh yeah, this happened 40 years ago with Star Wars, so I'm going to get the latest Star Wars stuff, then that's going to become super rare. Like, no, because everyone latched onto that, and now everybody and their mum's got a copy stuck in their loft, packed away or whatever. And
yeah. There'll be some things like the Lego minifigures. They have a scarcity built in, don't they? The both the ones in the sets and the blind bag ones. So I reckon there'll be some that people have that then become scarce and you have to pay a lot of money for, but not thousands of pounds. But there are, again, that said, there are Pokemon cards that go for millions, and they have built-in scarcity. So, well, if not millions, then hundreds of thousands. But anyway, card sleeves are a scam. Yeah. That's my take home from this, and everything is terrible.
Everything's going down the pan, and you shouldn't buy anything, because it doesn't matter. In the end of the day, we're all going to be dead.
There we go. So, I hope you've enjoyed this podcast and are feeling full of life and looking forward to tomorrow. And your pointless existence.
I think to come back to that point you mentioned earlier about the book you read and stuff, you need to find the joy in the stuff you have now, and not worry about the stuff you don't have. And look to the things you
and the people that you know.
More importantly, the people
that you know. Yeah, the people that you know.
If you think that you have a friend who's interested in a game, and you've got a whole bunch of plastic sitting there in a box somewhere that you're never going to touch, give it to them, and then maybe you'll have someone to play with.
Give it to them. Or just go and play with them. Yeah, absolutely.
So there we go.
Yeah, and the people connection definitely works. So like the Moonstone thing, I'd seen it and thought, oh, that looks interesting, but it was only when people I sort of know on our Patreon Discord that I thought, right, well, they think it's brilliant. That's a connection. Yeah. So hopefully I'll get to play with them one day. Who knows? But the people collection. So that's why
I have to free up a slot for that soon, and I need to bring over all those Bretonian models that I've got lying around for you.
Yes, lovely, brilliant. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for tuning in either live or on our podcast, and we will. See you in a couple of weeks. I'm not quite sure what the subject will be there. I have to think of something else to talk about. But if you have any ideas for subjects, then do let us know either via I don't know. How can they let us know, Pete?
Yeah.
Sure, there must be ways. Twitter, Facebook. You can find
Instagram.
us. YouTube is a really good place.
It's all in the credits.
Just send us a message.
All in the end notes stuff.
We would love to discuss. Whatever you think we need to be discussing. Jeebus Gatherers is off to eBay to buy some Zarbo. I can't even read. He's basically going to make some card sleeves for £250. You do that.
Mocking Robin.
You do that.
Next week we will.
No, don't get me started on dice.
Yeah, dice is another one, but we'll come on to that another time. And obviously, next Tuesday we will not be live. We're doing this fortnightly. For any of our Patreon supporters who are on Discord, next Tuesday we'll be doing a sit and Patreon on Discord. We'll be sitting there painting some models and talking nonsense. So do join us if you haven't done.
Putting the world to rights. Yep. Okay, guys. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye.
Bye.